Professional football in America is a special game. A unique game. Played nowhere else on earth. It is a rare game. The men who play it make it so, make it so, make it so, make it so.
WestOne Radio!
It's time! It's time from the Dago Dungeon. That's right, Murph bringing it 110%. Woo!
Why should we even be interested in what you have to say?
Shut up, Sonny. How many times am I going to yell at you in this segment?
I don't give a fuck. You run a thin league and you're all bad.
It's not Sunday no more. You can cuss.
And I'm not your bro. I'm not. Don't ever call me your bro. I'm never gonna be bros. I'm not your bro.
What did you do, stupid? You didn't push the right button. I see this guy on Facebook tripping with, hey Matt, tripping with West. They're talking, they're joking. Okay, he's not a bad guy. Come on!
Welcome to the show, Alan, Execution 99.
I'm not fat, I'm big boned.
What's that, he's fat?
What's up, Alan? You rocked me. That was embarrassing. I was texting Josh the whole time. What, was he going to give you pointers?
Hey, baby! We're going to be here all day, baby! I like this kind of party!
Welcome once again back into WestOne Radio. Tonight we're going to call that call this a 2.0 because the first time we had a crazy loop going on the new introduction there. And now my co-host is apparently moving furniture. But anyways, welcome in once again to WestOne Radio, a weekly look at not only Madden 15, but what's going on in the WestOne Madden League. I, of course, do not fly this ship solo. I have a co-host that joins me once every week, Alan Auden Murphy. Alan, how are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm hoping the show's going to be as good as I'm doing because we're off to a rough start right now. But we're going to pick it up. We're going to pick it up.
Absolutely, man. That was brutal there. I'm going to try to get the background music in here too. Let's see if this works. There we go. Got the background music works, and it's okay if the background music loops, Alan, on our introduction here, because that's what it's for. It's supposed to just be back there and loop out anyways. But anyways, let's talk. Let's kick it off, Alan. Man, I'm so excited, Alan. It is football time in Tennessee. That's right. I love this time of year. I feel like I say that every week, but you know what? This time of year, week to week, it is the best time of year. And tonight, the Tennessee Volunteers helped kick off college football season. They helped kick off the SEC network. They took on the Utah State Aggies. Well, granted, it's a smaller school, and that's typically what bigger schools do, is they play cream puffs in the beginning of the year, other than maybe South Carolina, who had a big game. But anyways, the University of Tennessee took on the Utah State Aggies, who actually have a pretty good quarterback. And it was a decent game, but UT held it down in front of 104,000 people at General Neyland Stadium and won the game 38-7. Alan, we are merely days away from the NFL season. We have the full copy of Madden in our hands. College football is in full swing. This is it, man. Does it get any better?
As far as I'm concerned, this is the best time of year. I'm not a huge college fan, but I do know my alma mater, Middle Tennessee State, had their best all-time opening in their school's history with a 61-7 win over Savannah State. We got NFL kicking off on Thursday night, and as you said, we've had Madden for a few days now, and we've been getting games in left and right in this league, so we're fired up.
Now, I know you're biased because you are a dyed-in-the-wool 49er fan, so I don't expect you to have anything positive to say about the Seattle Seahawks, nor the Green Bay Packers for that matter. But is there a better matchup? I mean, don't go with the Niners Seahawks, the obvious choice. But outside of that, it's nice we're not getting an NFC East game. It's nice that we're actually getting another competitive game, an interdivision, interconference across two divisions. But I think it's a great matchup. I think that this is, I mean, you want to talk about star power, it's got that. They're both going to be competitive. They're both going to compete for a shot at the NFC title this year. Could we ask for a better matchup for Thursday Night Football?
Well, I mean, the Thursday Night Football is always the defending champions, which obviously Seattle is this year. And outside of the Niners, Green Bay is probably the next premier team in the NFC. So you're right. I think that's a great matchup to open the season off with. And, you know, from a business standpoint, you don't want to blow all your loads too early if you're the NFL. Opening week is going to get enough hype as it is. So, you know, save some of those premier games for later in the year. It's still a good matchup to open the year up with. So I like it.
It certainly will be exciting. Man, I can't wait. It's going to be so fun just to get this thing in gear. Speaking from a little bit of a around the league perspective, of course, I'm just going to start and stop with the Oakland Raiders. Man, did you see the numbers and Derek Carr's performance, or at least any of the highlights? I got a chance to watch that game. They had most of it live on NFL Network. Man, he looks like the real deal. Finally, the Raiders look like they have a quarterback. It's been a long time since Rich Gannon went down with a concussion and ultimately retired. Man, this kid went out there, ice water in his veins. Now, I understand it's a preseason, but still, he faced, for the most part, the Seattle starting defense and had a great outing, threw 3 touchdowns, was responsible for 4. Derek Carr looked great. I'm excited, man. There's some excitement back in Raider Nation.
Well, I'm happy.
You just go ahead and be excited, right, Murphy? Okay, I got you. All right, well,
I'm happy for you.
All right, well, good deal. Well, hey, let's go ahead and kick it off. Let's start off by going around a little bit through the NFL. Not necessarily so much from a perspective of everybody can flip onto Bleacher Report or some of the other websites and see what the final 53s are for their own team. And as far as the cuts go, we're not going to necessarily analyze the cuts from the real-life league perspective, because that is a whole other set of implications, Alan, when you get guys that are finalized on the roster and become available free agents or maybe make moves within teams in the NFL. It impacts Madden in a completely different way. So let's talk a little bit about some of those moves. Some of the big NFL news out this week. You had Alex Smith signed his big extension for $17 million a year, whatever it was. Little heavy on the money, if you ask me. The guaranteed number is a little bloated because he already had like $8 million guaranteed for this year. So that's a little bloated. But outside of that, the Alex Smith deal, is that not huge Madden implications there, but worth noting. Also, James Harrison retires. Same thing, you know, is that huge Madden implications? I don't know if you're Domino, probably it is. I know that he must have enjoyed having Harrison back there, prowling back there at the linebacker position. So that's going to carry a little bit of weight there. Alan, any other big moves that you see that are going to have Madden implications as far as the roster cuts?
I think as far as Madden goes, the 2 biggest changes that that have happened the past couple days are Ryan Mallett to the Houston Texans and Champ Bailey straight up released by the New Orleans Saints. I don't think those are going to have heavy NFL implications, but in Madden, I think those are going to be 2 big implications for Madden and our league. I think Champ Bailey is going to be a strong Madden cornerback to go out there and get for a team that's looking for secondary help. And we've all had the conversations on this very show the last couple of weeks about how big a deal Ryan Mallett is in Madden. So I think Linden out there in Houston with his Texans might have got himself a little diamond in the rough at quarterback going into this year.
Alan, you mentioned Champ Bailey, and that's an excellent pick there. I'm trying to find. Let's see. He got cut by the Saints. You mentioned that he would be a good cornerback. I'm not sure if he has the ability to still play corner. Let's see. Let's take a little look at Champ's numbers here. I was thinking Champ could be more of a pickup as a free safety. Speed 88, acceleration 87. Certainly slowed from what he has been in the past. Still has a pretty high catching of 72. Let's see. Let's get on to some coverages here. Let's see. Play recognition 93. That is still huge. Man coverage 84. Zone 85. I'm thinking maybe he could be an underneath guy. Maybe you could have him covering somebody in the slot, maybe as a fourth corner. But certainly a free safety. I don't think there's any dispute there. Those are some pretty strong free safety numbers to bring in Champ Bailey. Now, the only downside is that how attractive is he going to be to most owners? Could he be attractive to a guy like you who runs the 49ers and already has a pretty well-built team? Or maybe somebody like, I don't know, the New England Patriots. Maybe you take McCourty and you move him to a cornerback, and then put a guy like Champ back there to play center field for you. Not really a lot of room in Seattle, but anyways, you get what I'm saying. That if you take an already established team, maybe he's a plug and play guy to help you get to a championship in 1 year. What do you think about that? You think he's got the ability to be a corner, or is he more of a safety?
Well, you got his ratings up. One thing that, for myself personally, that I'd be curious about is to see his press coverage rating. His man and zone aren't great, but I think if you're bringing him in as a number 3 or number 4, he's got solid enough man and zone coverages to cover those number 3 and 4 receivers. He's still got the awareness. His speed's, again, not great, but if he's not covering Ted Ginn, he'll probably be fine. And if he has a strong press coverage, you wouldn't want to waste that with him sitting as a free safety. I think he'd be a solid pickup for not to build around, obviously, because he'll probably be in the game for all of one season. But you asked about me, and I could say I'd love to have a guy like Champ Bailey in my secondary for a year while some of my younger guys develop and get a little bit of experience that I could boost them with. I could definitely say if he's available for my pick on the free agent draft, I would have to strongly consider him.
Well, the press is only 69, so there's not a lot to be said there. Press anything under, the mid 80s is not really too productive from a cornerback. So I don't think he's going to be playing up and challenging anybody at the line of scrimmage. But yeah, he certainly is a player to be noted. Even more so, if you do decide to play him at safety this year, we're going to get into gameplay here in a little bit. But just to draw some perspective to the player, I quickly last year traded away Charles Woodson, actually to you, because I didn't care for Chuck anymore because he's too slow when it comes to Madden terms. But that said, this year, in this Madden game, I'm using him, and he's effective. And that mid-80s speed that he has now isn't as easily exploited as it has been in the past because he's really able to make it up in other areas, much like with a receiver not necessarily having to have speed to gain separation by having a high route running. Same thing I'm seeing with Woodson, that he doesn't need to outrun anybody because he's just ends up being there, and that's a credit to the Madden developers and the AI. I don't know if his defensive awareness finally showing up and actually counting for something, or is that play recognition? I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, Charles Woodson's making a lot of plays on my team, and I normally would never have used him. I'm only using him because he's there and I'm using the default rosters, and I don't really want to take Terrell Brown and plug him back to free safety yet. I probably will in the season after Chuck retires, but anyways, in the meantime, that's what I'm seeing. So a guy like Champ Bailey really does bring a lot of value now, even though he, like you mentioned, he's going to retire. He's only going to get him for 1 year because he's 36 years old. But that, for a team that's already built, that may be a good move. Right,
yeah, and
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you talked about Charles Woodson and what he's been bringing, and I've noticed some in my games too with my Niners and with some of the other teams I've been using. They talked about the defensive upgrades that they've done this year, and I'm noticing them. A lot of things that, for my own personal experience, I got guys like.
Hang on. Save that. We're going to get to gameplay. We're going to get to that stuff later. Let's continue down talking about what's gone on in the NFL and what the cuts and how it's going to impact Madden. The other player that you brought up was Ryan Mallett. Ryan Mallett is a phenomenal Madden quarterback. Now, accuracies do count for something. They always do. And this year with the gameplay, the accuracies, boy, when they go south, they go south. I mean, you'll send a pass into the fourth row. But so he's got some accuracies to bring up, but he's got size and he's got massive arm strength. And Salty won a couple of championships with Ryan Mallett. I signed him in free agency late last year, away from the Texans, oddly enough. Signed him in free agency late in the game last year, and had more success with him than I have had with previous quarterbacks like Tyler Wilson and some other guys. But anyways, Mallett is a fantastic Madden player that brings a very good quarterback to Linden and his Texans, who previously were desperate. I mean, Keenum and Ryan Fitzpatrick, who were atrocious Madden quarterbacks. So this brings a lot
Shaw.
of... Well, Shaw previous year, sure. But, yeah, it really does help him out and solidify the most key position in the game.
Yeah, and you mentioned accuracy, and accuracy is a much bigger deal this year. And I'm looking at his accuracies now, and we're looking at 66 short, 69 medium, 78 deep. So that's definitely going to hurt in the early goings. But that throw power is still always going to be important, and his throw power is still at 95 right now. That's a lot to work with, and once you start getting some experience built up, if the experience gains are anything like they were last year, accuracy is one of the easiest things to boost up. You just start boosting up that short throw accuracy so you can at least get your dump offs and make your completions and rack up some stats. Then you can start working on the medium, and you've already got the deep is decent. It's not great, but as long as you're not chucking it downfield all the time, you don't need a hugely great deep accuracy. I think Ryan Mallett's someone that he can build up in a couple seasons and be a strong contender in the AFC South there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's going to be certainly the prize acquisition for the Houston Texans. There is no doubt. All right, a couple other guys of note that have made big impacts on Madden over the years. I'm trying to find. Shame on me, I didn't write down some stats for a couple of these guys. But I got a couple. I want to get your thoughts on these guys. Terrell Pryor is not a good real-life quarterback, not because he's not a phenomenal athlete. I wish the guy could catch, because he could be an amazing tight end or a big whiteout possession-type threat. But he just doesn't have the pop on his throws. He's got arm strength, but he doesn't have the zip. He's been often criticized by what previously the Raiders, and now since he's been with Seattle, for floating passes over the middle. And we see that with guys that don't have that arm. So we talked a lot last week about that zip to the sidelines, that 20-yard out route. That arm strength isn't always necessarily how far you can throw it, but it's how hard and on a line you can throw it. Can you throw that frozen rope to that outside route? That's what Pryor lacks, and that's what's costing him in the NFL, because to be an NFL quarterback, you just have to have that. You have to be able to do that. But in Madden, there's no accountability for one or the other. And I don't know it off the top of my head. I'll find it here in a second while we're getting your thoughts. I believe his throw power is 92. That's pretty good. And Madden doesn't differentiate between throwing it all the way downfield and throwing it and zipping it over to a sideline. So 92 is certainly functional enough. And you got a guy with 90 speed and like 91 acceleration back there playing quarterback. Terrell Pryor's a phenomenal quarterback. And he is going to be unless he gets picked up by somebody. I think he cleared waivers. So unless someone signs him as an undrafted, as an unrestricted free agent, Terrell Pryor is going to be a prize in our Madden league.
Well, the type of quarterback that he is definitely still going to lend himself to some attention. I've noticed, I'm not sure that the speed is as huge of a factor as it was last year. So quarterback that is going to have accuracy problems, I'm not sure that this year's the year that he's going to be able to make up for it with speed. I think Terrell Pryor would be a great acquisition for a team as a backup that they might be able to develop a little bit. And I'm sure a good player on the sticks will be able to get some good use out of him. I'm just not sure that he's going to be the dominant player that he was in Madden 25.
Well, that's a good point. That's a very good point. And it's he's 90 speed, 91 acceleration. I was a little bit off on that, but yes, his throw power is 92. So we're talking about a pretty solid guy there. So it's interesting, and I think he's going to be somebody that will definitely be targeted. Okay, the way that we do, let's go ahead and kind of talk about it now. We'll throw it out there. The way that we typically, historically have done our free agent draft is to take the overall rankings of the team, put them in reverse order, and then go through them. We're going to cover some of those here in a minute. Now, that they're going to change. So anything that we talk about here tonight on the show, please understand that it is probably going to change. And unless Salty has said it, it doesn't count. This is the unauthorized WestOne podcast, okay? So it's always going to be left up to him for determinations, especially when it comes to things like teams that are tied and whatever. But anyways, that said, that's how the draft works. Well, the Raiders, guess what? They're the worst team in Madden, 72 overall, so I get the first pick. So that leaves me to really kind of reveal – yeah, thanks, Alan. It really leaves me to kind of reveal what my draft strategy is going to be in the free agency draft. Well, anybody that looks at the Oakland Raiders roster can see that on paper in Madden, the wide receiver core is awful. Now, there's some young and upcoming guys that in real life are going to do pretty good, guys like Bryce Butler, who led the league in touchdowns in the preseason, guys like Denarius Moore, Rod Streeter. I mean, they have some pretty decent wide receivers. They're young, they're unproven. They got a long way to go still, but you can see the flashes. Well, that doesn't help in Madden. So my wide receivers are awful in Madden. Well, maybe Denarius Moore. But outside of that, after losing a guy like Jacoby Ford, who we're going to talk about also in a second, losing Jacoby Ford, I don't even have a speed threat anymore. So I look at a guy that's been flat out cut. They tried to trade him, but they flat out cut him, and that is Stephen Hill from the New York Jets. This guy has always been a fantastic Madden player. When you look at some of his numbers, Alan, listen to this, a 96 speed, 93 acceleration, and he's like 6'4", 6'5". That right there is enough to warrant a lot of attention. He's got a 73 catch. We can work on that. 62 route running. We can work on that. And then a 74 catch in traffic. Alan, what do you think about Stephen Hill being out there? I think he was probably going to be the guy that I'm going to lay claim to unless he gets picked up or signed by another NFL team.
Well, you mentioned that Stephen Hill has been a great Madden player in years past, and I'm thinking back on our league of years past, and I don't recall Stephen Hill being much of a huge threat or factor in our league. I'm not sure if that's because of him or because of the Jets or because of Jets owners in the past or what that may have been, but I don't recall ever seeing Stephen Hill being very notable in our league. He's got the speed ratings that you mentioned, and speed is always a factor, even if that's been toned down in this year's game. He's for a team that is void of wide receiver talent. I think he's a good addition, that he has some talents that you can utilize. I don't think he's going to be a game changer in a wide receiver core if for a team that doesn't already have anything going on.
Along with Stephen Hill, another guy that I've had literally the joy of using in the past has been Jacoby Ford. I just tried to find his ratings. I don't have them. He has been cut. He's out there for the world to get him. Off the top of my head, he's 97 acceleration, 98 speed, something like that. He is always one of the fastest guys in Madden, and was always you put that guy on a drag route, forget about it. There isn't a linebacker or a safety in the planet that's going to keep up with Jacoby Ford. Now, granted, it was always the hands and route running and all that, but that's stuff that you can upgrade. The intangibles, though, the speed and the acceleration are not as easily upgraded, and he's somebody that definitely, from me at least, is going to get some attention in free agency should he be available. All right, last guy I'm going to bring up. We're going to switch to the defensive side of the ball. And Alan, I've gone on my Tennessee Titans tirades in the past, and only because I feel semi-close to that team, not only living in Middle Tennessee and watching them firsthand and hearing about them firsthand pretty regularly, but I like the Titans, and they have, and as I've said before, and I'll stick to it, they have a phenomenal Madden team. Now, one of the players that I mentioned that, again, Madden paper, not so much in real life, was a great player, is Tommy Campbell. Tommy Campbell is a cornerback, 95 speed, 92 acceleration, 72 man coverage, 77 zone. This is a young guy you can sign for relatively cheap. You spend a half a season upgrading those coverages, all of a sudden you got a smoking cornerback. Alan, what do you think about Tommy Campbell sitting out there?
That's definitely a guy you can work with. Those kinds of speeds at the corner position, even if he doesn't have the high man coverage and he's going to get burnt on a route or something, he's got the speed to make up for it. And I wouldn't want him as my number one cornerback, but bringing him in as a 3 or 4, get him some snaps on defense, get him some experience, and develop those man coverages, that could turn him into something worthwhile down the line. Maybe a couple, 2, 3 seasons in, maybe our last season, depending on how well he develops. That's speed. If you got speed, it's something to work with at least. Again, kind of going back to Stephen Hill, he won't be a game changer, but it's something to work with.
All right, let's go ahead and continue down talking about the free agent draft. So I mentioned how it works historically with the reverse order of the teams and their rankings. So Sonny didn't want to commit to Salty didn't want to commit to anything on that because that stuff changes once we start getting into some of the final roster cuts and the final updates. Guys are going to go up, guys are going to go down. The bottom chunk of guys that may be dragging down in overall, well, they're gone. They're going to be gone. So those numbers are going to shift. I mentioned Derek Carr. He played phenomenally that night. During the game, I tweeted Donnie Moore and asked him, Donnie Moore, when he mentions a player on a tweet, he'll put a bunch of minuses or a bunch of pluses. Like, so say somebody had a good night, he might say player's name plus plus plus, or he might say player's name plus 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 plus. It means that he's seeing something in them. He's gonna give them some good ratings for the next update. So I tweeted him, Derek Carr lighting it up against the starting Seattle defense, plus, 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 with a question mark. And he retweeted it and favorited it. So I'm going to assume that the Raiders are going to make a nice little jump when it comes to quarterback. Now, granted, Matt Schaub's probably going to go down, so that those two things might equal each other out. But that just to illustrate my point that the things will change. So don't take these of what we're talking about here tonight as gospel, because they're probably going to change. But for right now, it would be the Oakland Raiders, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns, and the Washington Redskins, the Washington Warriors, or that Washington team. Whoever it is, that's your top 5 teams in the free agent draft. Alan, you won't pick till towards the bottom. But what do you think about the free agent draft? I thought it was a good addition to our league, the way that it's structured up. It's kind of fun because not only do you have the draft where you kind of know who you're going to get and you just kind of watch that thing evolve as people make their picks and you kind of target your guys versus the range you're in. But then when the draft is over, it's like at midnight, it's on. It's like the Cannonball Run or something. It's like the freaking flag drops at midnight, the bell goes off, and everybody goes crazy signing free agents. And it's great. It's so much fun. And, it's what's really fun is that, you can't trade away a free agent, so you can't just sign a guy to sign a guy. You got to, if you sign, you're going to keep him or you got to cut him to just making him available again. So it's a really fun dynamic that goes on for the free agent draft. It's one of my favorite things that we do. Alan, what do you think about the free agent draft?
I like the free agent draft just because in the first year, with people aren't all getting into the league at the same time. It's one thing after our first season, we're going into season 2, we just finished the draft. It's at a scheduled time. Everyone's in the league. Everyone's getting done with the draft at the same time. But if we start the league tomorrow, not everyone's in the league yet. So it gives people a chance to get adjusted to the game, get their games. For some that don't have the Xbox One or the game yet, I don't think there's anybody left in the league that doesn't have the game. But we all can't join the league at the same time. So for the first season, I really like it. And it does kind of add a neat little dynamic. For the first season, we don't get to have a rookie draft. That was already done for us by our real-life general managers. So it gives us a chance to at least play pretend draft with some leftover free agent scrubs that no one else wanted. But it's still neat anyways. You named a bunch of guys already that are diamonds in the rough maybe. So it's neat to kind of scout those guys and have that chance to do that going into the first season.
All right, well, moving on. We're going to get to our next topic here. Alan, what does this song mean to you? Oh, let me turn it up here. Alan, do you recognize that?
Give me a minute.
It's what some think is the greatest TV show of all time. It's certainly one of the most expensive shows of all time. It's certainly one of the most epic shows of all time. And it's certainly one of the most bloodiest shows of all time. Alan, was there a bigger bloodbath on cable television than the Red Wedding when the Starks were mowed down one after another?
I haven't seen Game of Thrones yet, so...
Well, shame on you, first of all. And second of all, Alan, let's talk about the Odd End Challenge. Briefly, but let's talk about the Odd End Challenge and the absolute bloodbath that occurred when you took on Josh Norman and his Green Bay Packers.
Well, I'm having technical difficulties here now.
Okay.
So that didn't do what I wanted it to do. But for the Audit Challenge against Josh Norman, I said it all on the Facebook page. I got to give credit to the guy. He had a statement to make. I had a statement to make. He accepted my challenge. He made his statement, and I did not. So credit to you, Josh Norman. It's the great Ric Flair once said, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And that's exactly what you did 2 nights ago when you stomped me 55-7 in my own challenge. You came into my house and you shut me down. All I can say is I hope it's not like that in the league when you and I meet up for our annual NFC Championship matchup, because that was quite possibly the most embarrassing Madden game I have ever played in my life. And credit to K-Matt also, one of the other 3 guys that I laid the challenge to came in and didn't lay the 55-7 beat down on me, but he made a statement making me play with the Oakland Raiders and himself playing with the San Francisco 49ers and coming in with coming in with a 24-7 win against me in the Odd End Challenge. So that was definitely 2 bad losses that I faced on my own challenge. Overall, I feel positive about how the Odd End Challenge played out because after it was all said and done, I did still end the challenge with a winning record with teams not named the 49ers, including wins over Justin Tsai and Terry, who are 2 of our better players in the league. I got a win over you as well. You had me use the Chargers, and that was a pretty big-time win that I got over you as well.
Shut up. I want to talk about
So I ended up with a winning record with the teams that the league handed out to me or randomized teams. In the case of what happened with Norman and Terry, I used randomized teams. So I feel good about it overall, but there is a sting that 2 of the 3 guys that I challenged came in and shut me down. The 3rd guy that I challenged did not accept the challenge, so I'll just let that be what it is. But 2 of the 3 guys that I challenged beat me, and that's definitely something that's going to come back and bite me.
Josh Norman scored more than Michael Sam in an Elton John concert. Oh, I've been saving that joke and I messed it up. So when the Green Bay Packers score, this is the song that they play at Lambeau Field. We're going to be hearing a lot of this year, guys. Alan, I'm telling you, the Green Bay Packers are going to win it all this year. The West won. show. Caller, are you there?
No, I'm not. I don't really want to be after last night.
Let's talk about the odd and challenge, K-Matt. How'd your odd and challenge go? I love the fact that you used the Niners against him. That's pretty funny.
Oh, was there even an odd and challenge? I really didn't feel challenged. Oh, there he is. You've been awful silent. I want to make sure you was there.
Oh, I'm here. I just want to say, first and foremost, congratulations, K-Matt. You accepted my challenge. You beat me 24-7. No excuses. I'm the one who said that teams don't matter nearly as much as they're made out to be by some in the league. And so no excuses. You beat me fair and square. You were the better player on that game. I would hesitate to say that it was not as little challenging as you claim. It was a one-possession game until the fourth quarter, and things kind of got out of control. But you beat me fair and square. Congratulations, K-Matt.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. And I don't know if it's just because I got off a 12-hour shift and I'm tired, but teams matter. Just to be honest, that's why we all try to get the best in free agents, the best drafts. But Alan, I got to say this for the last time I'll ever say this. I mean, your skill level is obviously above a lot of people. You're a pretty good player. I don't blame you for taking the Niners. I give you a lot of crap. That's your team. Hell, I wish the Colts was a 95, whatever they are, rating. I would love to have the top two middle linebackers, especially after Josh put the butt whipping on me last night, running up right down my friggin' throat. But yeah, Alan, I mean, that was pretty man of you.
Let's talk about that instead, K-Matt. Let's take an hour. Let's take an hour introspective on the game last night. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have no problem. I mean, I give you stuff about Reach, and I will do it to the day I die. But I mean, you took advantage of two really stupid mistakes in the first half, where you fooled me on the goal line, and then I don't know what God creation made me throw a quarterback out of the pocket to Richardson down the sideline, but I certainly threw it, and it cost me 14 points, and then you just ran it down my throat the rest of the game, and wasn't jack I could do about it.
Let's talk a little bit about the running game. You know, early on, and I want to hear from both of you on this. K-Matt, tell me your thoughts first. Early on, I had a really hard time running the football. I've kind of found that it depends on what formation you run at least for my team and the way the Raiders are set up, to get the holes to open up in a way that I can work with. I have to run it out of a certain formations. The other thing I've found is that I have to be a lot more patient. Historically, I've always been better with a guy like Darren McFadden, who you can, hit the turbo button and blast up there through the line of scrimmage. I'm finding now I can't do that as much. I'm actually better running the football with Maurice Jones-Drew when I'm running between the tackles, and if I'm going outside the tackles, then I like McFadden. So there you go. I just gave away my game plan. So you can figure out what I'm running by what running back I'm using, but which wouldn't take long to figure that anyways. But anyways, that said, what do you guys think? K-Matt, what do you think? Is the running game starting to make sense to you, or are you still kind of having challenges with it?
So yeah, I've noticed two things. One, and just talking to, joking with Alan about the stacked team. I think the biggest difference in teams this year, and they said it last year, but I didn't really see it much, is the O-line. When I used the 49ers against Allen, the third and fourth quarter, I ran a lot. And then I broke Gore, what was it, an 80-yard run or something like that, Allen, and there was nobody in the hole. The O-line just tore them up because they have, if not the best, probably one of the top three offensive line in the game. And I also noticed running back strength, and I've noticed that because I've used Richardson a lot. While we all joke about his real-life production and stuff, in Madden, his trucking and strength, people just bounce off of him. And I think them are the two biggest things in the running game. But I agree, formations are key and patient. And like I said, after last night, you made me change my defense. The 3-4 is going down the toilet. But yeah, I've just noticed the O-line is going to make a huge difference. And the strength of the running back, in my opinion, this year, it's less speed and more strength. I don't know if you guys have seen anything like that.
Well, I know that last year, for 2 or 3 years, I had the number one rushing offense in the league, and it was basically kind of what Josh said: hit a stretch play, pound the turbo button, and let the blockers do the rest. And last year, the running game was kind of broken, and then the read option was what the read option was. We all know about that. But this year, I've noticed a lot of what you said, Josh, about you can't just pound down the turbo button. You got to sit and wait for your blocks to open up. It's just not as overpowered this year. I'm starting to pick it up a little bit myself, but I'm not having teams run against me. I'm not running against teams. It's definitely changed this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that those are great points that you guys make, and kudos to Madden for finally getting it, because you're right, K-Matt. They told us that last year, but we all know the run game was broken last year. I mean, when you looked at some of the rushing totals from just within our league, and it was way overblown, and it was way overpowered, and the whole pistol thing and all that. It really kind of tainted the game, honestly, in my opinion. But Matt, K-Matt, what do you think as an overall? I mean, we've had the game now for a week. What are your thoughts on Madden 15 so far? Overall positive?
Yes. One thing, and it happened last night, and Josh should beat me down anyways. I can't stand that Madden does, and it's not a cop for my loss, is the fumbling quarterback. It is so frustrating that every time a quarterback almost in the open field gets tackled, he fumbles. I have watched The Bearded Wonder for 2 years, and the man never fumbles. And I know it's a video game.
Now hold on, though. I am going to stop you on this. So you're right. And his carrying, I don't know what his carrying is. I'm going to assume that it's pretty high. But he also, on that one where you fumbled, you don't see in real life Andrew Luck running a wheel outside of the pocket and going head to head with a linebacker either. And and from watching him, I would counter that. And I hate this as a fan, but the man he will take players on one-on-one, dive forward, go short. I wish he'd stop, but he does not slide. I will challenge you that he doesn't do that. But Okay.
It's not just with him. It's now if you'd have hit stick me, I'd have said all right, whatever. But it was kind of you grabbed me from behind, but then
there
his
was
hands
the
fell up
second
and the ball fumbled.
Yeah, and it was the second player, actually, I believe, that caused the fumble. And I agree with you, and I trust your opinion on Andrew Luck taking on those kind of collisions. But is that one of those kind of things, though? Can we really, though, account for that from a video game perspective? I don't know, because I like to I haven't fumbled yet. I've been hit, I've been sacked numerous times, but I haven't fumbled yet. But I'm not in the open field. I'm not taking Derek Carr out there because, number one, I don't want to get him hurt. That's the most thing, or the biggest thing to me is that, sacrificing a fumble now and then, whatever, that if you're productive with your offense by moving outside the pocket, then fine, so be it. If I lose Derek Carr, I'm in big trouble because Matt McGloin and Matt Schaub are not going to cut it as backup quarterbacks. I mean, my game is done. My offense is done. So I'm really not trying to get lit up out there. So, maybe that's part of it. That, I mean, if maybe their carrying rating, could the game be smart enough, do you guys think, Alan, to be smart enough to when the guy is outside the pocket with Colin Kaepernick, does his carry rating go down?
Well, both of you have been talking about your quarterbacks that aren't huge, wheel running, going head-to-head with a linebacker. I'm the guy in this that does have that quarterback. And I haven't seen it as much yet this year, but I haven't been running with Colin Kaepernick as much yet, but it was atrocious last year. It was anytime a linebacker came within 3 yards of Colin Kaepernick, he was fumbling it. And Colin Kaepernick, like Andrew Luck, doesn't have a fumbling problem in real life. So it's definitely, to me, it's definitely a game mechanic thing that they've done to try to balance the rushing quarterbacks and stuff. And I don't know if it's from personal experience, if it's carried over this year. I'm going to take K-Matt's word on this one. I just haven't run enough with Colin Kaepernick yet, or anyone for that matter. So,
well, we used to.
Look, to answer your question, Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't really answer. The fact that that's the only really thing I have to complain about, just tells you how awesome this game is. Because one, I probably maybe twice in our season, in our franchise, will I do that. I just run the read option in these little plays to see how the defense reacts. So I know I play defense about it. But that's the only thing that's really irked me. I mean, the zone, the defense, the man-to-man is good, but it's not overpowering. Like last night, I caught you in a cover one, I think it was, and T.Y. went past your defender, but it was like it was real life. It wasn't 15 yards, 10 yards, but he blew passing just enough for the ball to drop right to him for a touchdown.
Are you talking about the deep one? That was Moncrief, and I'm going to further.
No. That was T.Y., but I'm not. Either way, it doesn't. They're both fast, but it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but what I was going to say is to even further illustrate your point, though. Are you sure it was a Moncrief? Because when I looked at what his speed was, he's like 3 points better on acceleration and speed than Terrell Brown was. And you're right, the pass dropped perfectly, just like it would in a real game, just over the top. And and it was like I was almost there. And that's what you want, because that to me is what real life is. Is that, unless it's blown coverage, you don't have guys outrunning DBs by 10 yards. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen.
And the almost there, that's a good phrase, because almost there, if you have, and whatever people think of Luck, whatever, he's a pretty good quarterback. If you have a lower level quarterback, then almost there will get you an interception on lesser quarterbacks. So that almost there, that's probably a perfect phrase. The quarterback's almost there against probably the top 10, maybe 15 quarterbacks. But against the rest, that Terrell Brown may have had a pick because he may have underthrew him. So that's what I like about the game. You have to make good throws, or the quarterback has to make good throws to get completions. It's not just throw it up, hey, let's T.Y. go catch it, or don't run a slant, let the fast guy. I mean, you used Jacoby Ford in the past. It's a perfect example. You just throw it up to him, he go run and catch it.
Yeah, he's putting in the slot on a 9 route, and it's all over.
Yep. So, I mean, and I obviously love the game. I haven't played as much as I would like with just work and other stuff going on, kids football. But I think the game, like I said, I haven't had any complaints. The quarterback thing is one. It's just a mechanism that I don't know if they'll fix it. I'm not really stressing that much about it, but I think it's the best Madden they've ever put out. And like I said, I'm not one to go back, and I can't tell you what Madden 06 was or Madden 10 was. But from my recollection, this is the best Madden by far they have put out.
Well, there's a term that I like to refer to often called the eye test. It's like, when you're looking at a player, judging him, is he a Hall of Famer, for instance? Does he pass the eye test? Is it, when you talk about elite quarterbacks, does he pass the eye test? And this game passes the eye test. I'm with you. I don't know all the ins and outs and remember them all each and every year because there's been so many and they blur together. But this feels in gameplay like the best Madden that we've ever played. I agree.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't think it's close. I mean, there's been some good Madden, some good stuff here and there, but I just don't think it's close.
Good deal.
It looks real. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like you got home. We could we'll go ahead and let you go. Any final words for us here? K-Matt, appreciate you joining us here on WestOne Radio.
Nope. So good luck, guys. Alan, I got to say, must be a bad night. I was way to man up and to do all the challenge. That was pretty good. And Josh, yeah, we're going to play again for this season. That's some BS last night, just so you guys know. But, okay. Good job, guys. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot, K-Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, K-Matt.
K-Matt D, owner of the Indianapolis Colts, jumping in to join us here on WestOne Radio. I got to tell you, Alan, I had a good Madden night last night, man. I had a great night. I beat my I would call him my arch rival. I mean, it's always fun to beat you, of course. It's always fun to beat Salty. A couple other guys in the league that I always like playing against. Terry has had my number here big time lately. But K-Matt, I think that as far as the most intense rivalry I have in this league, it's definitely with him. And, man, it felt good to beat him, and not only beat him, but whip him. I mean, I tore him up. He got a late score on me. I think the final was 31-24, but man, it felt good to beat up on K-Matt a little bit. So, anyways, thanks again, K-Matt, for calling in and joining us on the show. Alan, we talked a lot about kind of where the game has gone as far as speed versus things like route running versus things, the other things that influence what our players are doing on the field, and it's not just a one-sided thing. One of the topics that's come up recently in our league has been sliders. We would historically in West One use sliders. We try to get them. If for anybody that doesn't know, you can adjust the impact of different attributes throughout the game, and we would adjust those attributes so speed feels more like speed. You want to have a guy with 97 speed. You want to, if he gets into the open field, you don't want to see him getting chased down from the backside by defensive linemen. And Madden would unfortunately have that aspect to it, to where it would kind of apologize for those attributes, and it would make things happen in game that really would never happen in real life. So you adjust these sliders to try to get the best possible outcome from your players. And there are websites that go on and on and on and on, Operation Sports and such like that go on, and everybody posts their sliders and everybody talks about their sliders. Well, this year it came up, are we going to do sliders? I don't think we need them. I think that so far from the different challenges and tournaments we have going on, and we're going to talk about Assassins here in a minute, from all the games I've played, or just the casual head-to-head, or unfortunately the couple of lobby games I've played, everything seems to feel in order. I don't really feel like we need to adjust sliders to compensate for speed or to compensate for inaccurate quarterbacks or any of that other stuff like we've had in the past. Alan, what do you think so far about the gameplay and whether or not sliders are necessary?
Going off of my experiences, I think that I don't see a particular need for sliders. Obviously, that's something that Salty's going to look into, and other players are going to put in their input, and we'll come to that decision. But I haven't, in any of my games, I haven't played anything where I'm just like, well, that shouldn't be happening. You and K-Matt talked about the speed, and I've noticed that almost there that you guys were talking about. I played against Preston and his Seahawks last night, I think it was, and Percy Harvin, he beat me over the top a couple times, but it wasn't blowing past unrealistically. It was, my guy was there, Percy Harvin just had that step, and it just dropped in because he's got Russell Wilson. There's things that I did last year that I can't do this year, and I say that in a good way because I feel like money plays aren't as big of a deal as they were last year. We all had our money plays that we just went back and forth to every game, over and over, and that's not the case this year. I'm not noticing any money plays. The only thing that I've personally noticed is that at the end of the game, the stat lines all seem kind of low. I got quarterbacks that are on both sides that are only passing for maybe $150, and running backs on either side that are only running for maybe 30 yards, and wide receivers on either side that are only catching for 30, 40 yards a game. And I don't know if that's just, it's harder to run an offense, and it counts more when you reach those 100-yard game milestones or 300-yard game milestones, or if there is maybe something that we can look at. Maybe it's just time of the quarters that needs to be looked at. But that might be the only thing that stood out to me is the final stat lines on the game.
Well, that's a great point that you bring up. Frankly, that's something I hadn't thought about. I hadn't looked much at the stat lines, but I do know that I have seriously underperformed compared to where I have been in the past, win or lose, just because I'm running more, as I mentioned here in the past couple of games. And I'm splitting carries between MJD and McFadden, eclipsing 100 easily in some of those wins, probably getting to 120, 130, which I feel pretty comfortable about that. That's not out of line. But you're right, especially the receivers, even going up against K-Man and beating me deep with Hilton or Moncrief or whoever it was, we're not posting up any major numbers. Once we kind of get into the flow of the league, we'll be able to see a little more of that once we got guys that are out there. Like, we hadn't really seen much of Ostie since in this first week, so who knows what what CJ's going to do, what Megatron's going to do. Who knows, once Norman gets up and running, I think he's only had the game now for a few days. What's he going to do with a guy like Jordy Nelson? Of course, we talked about Earl and USC Weezy and what he's going to do with the Bears. So I think once we get into the season and we get more of the elite premier players playing, game in, game out, maybe some of those numbers will adjust. But you made a good point, and I think you also made a good point in it could be just something as simple as time of the quarters. Now, we've gone to the 7-minute quarters with the accelerated clock. I haven't paid attention enough yet, and I need to do that. Maybe we'll get on one and do it after the show, Alan, to time it and see where we're at. A Madden game, a league game, to me, typically needs to come in right about an hour. I want to be able to play for an hour, and I think that's kind of the wheelhouse. That's the sweet spot. I don't know where we're at. It doesn't feel like I'm playing too long or too short, but maybe there is a little bit of room in there to adjust the quarter length to like maybe 8 minutes, and then that of course will inflate the stats a little bit more over what they are currently. But ultimately, again, guys, whatever we talk about on the show has to be determined by Salty, and he does an amazing job of combing over that stuff, doing his homework on that before anything gets any decisions get made. But I'm with you. Maybe the 8-minute quarter with the runoff. That's a good choice. All right. Also, when it comes to the game, we talk a lot about positives tonight. There have been a few things. There have been a few bugs and glitches in the game. There's a crazy one with when you see a receiver or any offensive player for that matter go flying. I haven't seen that one yet. I've seen just posts on it on the Facebook page and other folks putting it up on different websites. It's pretty funny just to see. It reminds me of like NFL Blitz or something when you got your receiver going over the middle and he gets hit and he goes flying 20 feet in the air and 20 yards backwards. What do you think, Alan? What else are you seeing out there and reading about as far as the bugs and glitches in the game?
I haven't personally seen the flying crazy in the air, but I have seen quite a few. I got my nickname because of all the audibling that I'm doing, and I've noticed a couple things with the audibles that are messed up. For one, if you're trying to switch your position in audibles, the title, the formation listing in your Audible menu only gives you the formation that you're in. So as you're cycling through, you don't know what formation you're trying to audible to if you're trying to audible to a new formation. So that it makes it very difficult to audible accurately. Another one that I've noticed is at least one play in particular, and probably a few others, that if you audible into that play, it does not run properly. It does something entirely different. I noticed it in a game that I played in the Assassins tournament where it was supposed to be a handoff, and Colin Kaepernick didn't hand the ball off and started running it himself. I noticed on another one, which is a play-action end-around, Colin Kaepernick didn't do the play action to the receiver. He just started, and so the linemen weren't blocking properly and stuff. But when I was running it normally, everything was doing what it was supposed to. So it seems there's certain plays that don't run properly if you call them from an audible. I know that USC Weezy, I believe it was, posted something about shotgun formations and custom playbooks. He wasn't able to find all of his plays. I do know from my own experience with the custom playbook on a kickoff return, your only option for a kickoff return is the 2-man kick return middle. That's it. And then probably the biggest one that I've noticed is sometimes when you're on defense, when the offense calls their play and you have that 10-second timer to call your play, that as soon as you get to the play call screen, that timer starts and it's at like a second. So basically your play on defense is called for you automatically and you don't have a chance to call your play. And I've seen that happen way too many times. So that's another big one to watch out for.
Well, hopefully that stuff they can get patched, when they do the patches, and we'll see a big one come typically early on. Usually they'll do 2 or 3. Of course, you get the roster updates week in, week out, but we'll see a big patch to the game typically a couple of times. And so I'm going to assume, and that's That's the one we're waiting for. We're waiting for the big patch with the big roster update, with the final 53, and then we're going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off. So hopefully they can address some of those. They don't address game changes, like we're not going to get new play calling menus, for instance. But maybe some of those things that are glitchy, that are actually not designed to happen in the game, they can get those taken care of and get those fixed. All right, Alan, let's move on. We talked a lot tonight about some of the changes to the league, and last show we talked a lot about the changes to the league. One of the other things that had been proposed recently was the Twitch broadcasting. We had discussed maybe doing it as a mandatory thing or just having guys opt into it as frequently as possible. I think the exception rate of this thing is pretty darn good. We got a lot of guys broadcasting games. I've watched a couple myself. I like how Salty has it set up on the Madden Daddy site, where you can go on there and you can see multiple games, or you can just easily quick link to get out there to it, especially if you're working from a tablet. Man, it looks great on the iPad. Watching the games on the tablet is great. Even while you're sitting there doing something else, you got the watching another show or a game or whatever, and got the tablet there off to the side with the game on it. So it's a cool dynamic, and I would encourage any of our owners, broadcast your games, man. Get them out there. If you're the home team, broadcast your game, because it really is fun. Now, game in, game out, are you going to have a bunch of people tuning into it? I don't know, probably not. But if it's a big game especially, you're probably going to get a lot of people watching. The game I had against KMAT, I tried broadcasting, it didn't work. But my second game against Preston? I think it was a game against. Anyway, there were like 5 people watching it. That was pretty cool. So anyways, I would encourage you guys, if you can, get your broadcast up and get them going. Now, there has been some technical difficulties on the Twitch broadcast. I set up Twitch when the Xbox One first came out and got it up and running. Then left it alone and hadn't done a thing with it since, until the league started here recently, and we talked about it, so I wanted to get up and going again. Well, it didn't work. I had to go and reactivate and kind of go through the process all the way over again. Guys, there was a link on the Facebook page. It walks you through the steps, how to do it from start to finish. I know some of the guys have done that and they're still not having success, but if you haven't messed with that yet, do it. It's not that hard. Go through, get your Twitch broadcast set up, because it really does add a fun dynamic to the league, and I've enjoyed watching some of the games. Alan, what do you think about the Twitch broadcast?
Well, I haven't watched any games yet, but I've been broadcasting just about every game. I think the only one I wasn't able to do was when K-Matt and I played after last week's show, because I didn't have it set up yet. But I've been broadcasting just about every game since then. I haven't had any issues with it. There's only one real complaint that I have with it, and it's not a Twitch thing. It's just a preference thing. I can't record highlights while it's Twitch broadcasting, so that kind of sucks. I can't use the Xbox record that command. But the other thing that I did notice, and this might have just been a one-time thing, I don't know, but if we are going to broadcast our games during the league, I would recommend only one person in the game broadcasting it. Justin and I myself played an Assassin's game the other night, and we were both broadcasting it, and the lag was bad in that game. So I don't know if that was because we were both broadcasting or not. I myself personally have it at the highest settings possible, and I'm not experiencing any lag when it's just myself broadcasting. But that game with Justin Sy, where we were both broadcasting, had really bad lag. And the game that we had prior to that, there was no lag with just one person broadcasting. So I'm inclined to believe that it might have been 2 Twitches going off on the same game.
Well, and Justin, I think, spends part of his time in Hawaii too, so that certainly could have been part of it as well. Alan, I mentioned I did watch some games. You know which one was a great game to watch? Alan, are you there?
I'm here.
You know which game was a great game to watch?
What game's that?
Paco. many touchdown passes did Aaron Rodgers throw in that game?
Actually, not very many because Carson Palmer was throwing all the touchdown passes to the defense.
All right, enough of that. All right, let's move on. Guys, we mentioned that the Twitch broadcast, Salty's got it set up fantastically on the Madden Daddy page, and that brings us to Madden Daddy. Guys, if you're not using Madden Daddy, use it. I encourage you strongly to use it. It's a great website. Salty bought it, access to it for us on the front end a couple of years ago. Granted, it doesn't have some of the same functionality that it used to. When you go back to what Madden Daddy was a few games ago, you could draft on it. You could do all kinds of stuff. Really gave you a lot of that. You could basically play everything except play your game. You could do on the Madden Daddy site. Now, when they changed to the connected franchise and connected careers and all that, it pulled back some of the capabilities that Madden Daddy was able to do because it was different code that they were able to tie into and a few things. But anyways, all that said, you could still manage your team. You want to know who's going to be on the free agent list? Guess where you get that? You're going to get it from Madden Daddy, because once the rosters update and we start the league, you can go on to Madden Daddy. You can search free agents as a group, print that sheet off, or just look at it, whatever you want to do. You can see every single free agent that's there available. You can look at contracts. You can look at salaries. You can look at other teams' rosters. You can look at your goals. You can upgrade with your experience. You can do so much stuff with Madden Daddy. If you're not using the website to get the full gist of what we're all about and what we do in WestOne, again, I encourage you, go out there, use it. It's a simple sign up. It's not a big deal, and it's a great thing. And you know what? It'll give you something to goof off with when you're at work and you got your lunch break or whatever, and you want to look up some stuff and look at some stats and whatever. You can do it all on the Madden Daddy site. So it's daddyleagues.com/WestOne. So go out there, check it out, get signed up, and I would encourage you to use Madden Daddy. Alan, have you had a chance to use the website much?
I haven't looked too much at Madden Daddy this year yet, but I know in leagues past it's been great for keeping track of stats and standings, and like you said, free agents and all that sort of stuff. I'm myself personally, still a little bit paranoid. It's less of a Madden Daddy thing and more an Allen thing. I usually like to handle all my stuff in the game. But it sounds like other people have had successes with Madden Daddy doing that sort of stuff. So we got it up and running. We got all the Twitch broadcasts on there. It's a great resource to keep track of what's going on in the league.
All right, another website I'd like to bring up is Pro Boards. I think it was just. I just picked my nose on the radio. That was pretty cool. Look, it wasn't like a full dig. I didn't go like two knuckles, but I had like, you get like that inside itch. And then you go with the thumb, and you go inside out with the thumb. You know that one? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I usually don't do it when I'm on camera, though, but fair enough.
Nor do I, but now 4 episodes in, apparently, Alan, I'm comfortable enough to go with the inside-out nose pick out there for the world to see. Goodness gracious,
we're all a family here. We're all a family here, and from what I hear, K-Matt went shirtless last week. So I mean, it's a family thing. We share with each other. It's a good thing that the camera only captures me from the chest up. Let me just say this, because I've really gotten comfortable a couple times. All right, so ooh, that got weird. too much information. Just clench it down. Norman, if you're listening, come save the show. All right, back on track here. All right, so it got brought up that maybe we should find another website to maybe use for trade talks. And I think the consensus was, well, we didn't want to necessarily put that out there for everyone to see, a public display of maybe what some trade negotiations are. Oops. But maybe to have just an additional forum, because things can get buried, can get missed. So that's kind of where Pro Boards to me comes in. Pro Boards is one of those things that when the league gets started,
and people are doing their trades and they're posting their captains lists and they're doing all the things, that's when Pro Board stays active, and it's very valid, and it's a great communication tool for all of us in the league. And so I would encourage you, if you guys want to send messages, if you don't want to use a Facebook Messenger or whatever, then use Pro Boards. That's a great place for it. And it's also static. And that's the nice thing about it versus like Facebook, where if you're in a conversation with somebody, well, somebody else could start one, and then all of a sudden everything's working its way down the list and it starts to get buried. When you go to Pro Boards and you make a post, it's an old school forum, right? So that stuff stays there. It's online. It's easy to find. It's easy to access those conversations. So much like Madden Daddy, if you're not using Pro Boards, it will make your experience in West One better. I promise you. All this stuff that we have out there is all from not necessity. That's overstating it, but it's because we found that there was a need and a way to improve upon our experience in West One, and so those were the tools that we developed and mainly, so I say we, but mainly Salty developed to be able to accomplish those goals and those tasks. So if you're not using Pro Boards, use Pro Boards. You'll enjoy it. It will make for a better experience for you. Alan, have you used Pro Boards?
I have used Pro Boards.
If you say no, you're fired.
I had used Pro Boards, and actually, when I first started in the league, the Pro Boards community was very active. Salty, myself, a few others were always posting, our quote-unquote newspaper articles about the happenings with our team and our press releases and everything, and it was a real active back and forth that added another element to the league. That has kind of shifted to the Facebook page now, but that was a really fun element of the Pro Boards. Plus, I think it's a good place to have trade talks. I mean, it's one thing to hit up on Facebook and tag someone and say, hey, let's talk trade. I know a couple people said they like to keep that stuff private. I usually do too. I like to just come out and say, all right, we've made this trade. Can we get it approved, rather than flaunting that all publicly? But it's still, like you said, not everybody wants to use the Messenger. Some people don't really care about keeping it as private. Use the Pro Boards. It's a great community. It's a great tool to have.
Alan, you made some excellent points there, and I agree with you. I don't know, because I'm extremely distracted by K-Matt texting me shirtless pictures. This show is going wrong. K-Matt, you're killing me. So funny.
This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I signed up for.
Oh my God. I had to hide him from the broadcast. I'm sweating over here. I'm terribly uncomfortable.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I'm sure K-Matt could score at an Elton John concert too. All right, so let's move on. Alan, we're just about done. We're getting ready to wrap up here. But let's bring up one last thing. Let's talk about WestOne Radio. Let's talk about what this thing is that we've been doing here over the past few weeks. We started this show a few years ago again to, make for the better Madden experience. That, when you play in a online Madden franchise, it's an RPG. I don't care how you slice it. It's an RPG. We are, Sonny likes to say we're playing dress up, or I think his wife says you're playing dress up with your football players again. And it's kind of true. When you're adjusting Justin Tuck's face mask, guess what? You're playing dress up. I don't care what you say. So, not that we all do that, but whatever. So it's an RPG though. It's a role-playing game, and so sports talk radio is such a huge aspect of being a fan. Whether you're Jim Rome or Dan Patrick or Colin Hurd or Mike and Mike in the morning, whatever. I don't know about you, Alan, but I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, and I love it. And so we wanted to start a show to talk about the league and kind of introduce a second dynamic to it, to make it feel a little bit more real and to have fun with it. It's why it's interactive. It's why it's not just you and I sitting here bumping our gums. It's why we like to have people call in and we like to have feedback from our owners. It's just a fun thing, and it scratches an itch for me. I love doing it. I love talking Madden football. It keeps us all in touch with each other, and again, it brings so much personality to it. So, all that said, what are we going to do? What are we doing here week in and week out? Well, we haven't really had a lot to talk about, frankly, even though we've been going 2 hours a show. We haven't had a lot to talk about because the league hasn't even started yet. So we're going to be dangerously close to like 4-hour shows if we're not careful. But anyways, we've kind of been filling a lot of space.
We're the Lord of the Rings of sports talk.
Yeah, these are the
extended version.
The extended
we're not even the theatrical release. We're the extended version.
You and I are Merry and Pippin underneath a pile of orcs right now. There is no doubt. Okay, so what are we going to do?
Keep your orc files to yourself and K-Matt.
Oh my God. Cleanse that. Thank for Todd Rundgren, man. This show has got some strange. All right, so expectations for the show. So what are we going to do week in and week out? What are we going to be talking about? We're going to be sitting here honking about all these different challenges and these different... Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about Assassins. Crap. All right. We're going to talk about... Yes.
Josh, let's get it together, host.
What a shame. K-Matt derailed. It's the shirtless pictures of K-Matt has derailed me on the show here. All right, let's cover the expectations of the show.
Get yourself together.
Then we're going to dive back into the Assassins because it's a really important thing I want to talk about. Thank you. Sorry, sad trombone. All right, so expectations for the show. The one thing that I think was a lot of fun that we were... There's an on-air burp for you, too. One of the things that I think we were able to do that brought a lot of fun to the show was the divisional spotlight. That was a chance for us to run through. We get 2 advances a week, so there's two games per team in between shows. So it gave us a chance to go through each division, kind of do a brief rundown of what we thought that owner did in those performances, in those games, what he did maybe with a player or two, what his strategies were, and then hopefully have those guys call in and talk about it. And so that divisional spotlight is really going to kind of what our show is going to hinge around. We're going to talk about Madden. Yeah, we're going to talk about real life football. We're going to always have something else to talk about, but really the gist of it is going to be about the divisional spotlight and really kind of do, for lack of a better term, a highlight show for what's going on in our league week in and week out. So that's what you can expect. We may do a couple of fun little things. Sonny and I used to do a show called the Sports Dagos, and we had a weekly segment. We would have a big stupid for the week, somebody in the sports world that did something really dumb. We may do a big stupid, in our Madden league. We may have a sad sack of the week. I think you would qualify for that this week after getting beat down by Josh Norman and those by getting beat down by Josh Norman and those Packers and then getting all butthurt about it. You might qualify as the sad sack of the week this week, Alan. But anyways, that's it. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to do on the show. So thank you for you guys that are coming to us so far here. We've had some pretty good viewership so far, considering we only have 32 people in the league. 2 of them are you and me, and we're getting over like 35 views on the show. So that means people are paying attention. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. So anything else you want to bring up as far as what we're going to do here going forward on the show, Alan Murphy, here on WestOne Radio?
I think you covered it. We're the weekly breakdowns, talking about any roster moves and trades and playoff pictures and all that good stuff. So,
all right, good deal. Well, let's turn it around. I thought we were done, and shame on me, I forgot the Assassins. I want to talk about the Assassins tournament. This is pretty fun. We have done the Lone Wolves a few times. Lone Wolves is pretty fun, but what happens ultimately is that you get guys that you get like a pool player, right? And then you break into your different brackets, and then it kind of slows down for everybody. Not everybody has a chance to be active in the tournament once it gets going. So what we wanted to do, what Salty had thought about doing, was doing this Assassins tournament to where everybody could continually play, and that the outcome of your game would constantly influence your position as far as the pool play goes. So there's no limit. So you could play 100 games or you could play 1, and it's you could qualify for the tournament. Also, the way that it's structured, by getting your points for on a win and your points against on a loss, what it does is that it allows people to move up and down when it comes to their positioning. Sorry, my microphone is falling down here, so I'm trying to mess with it. So it allows people to move up and down for their position. So it's a fluid thing. So it's constantly changing. So that is a pretty neat dynamic that I thought was introduced when we came up with the Assassins Tournament. Now, when it comes to complete of the pool play, we're going to take our top 4 players, and then we're going to have a 14 playoff, much like the new college football. We're going to have a 14 playoff and see who wins the Assassins Tournament. In the past, we've had guys kick in things like Microsoft points cards or who knows, all kinds of different things that we've had. I think there was even a trophy once for who won our quote preseason tournament. So I've liked it a lot. It's brought a lot of different elements of gameplay up in the fact that your score is not just do I walk out of here with the win. It's how many points am I walking out of here with, and that's really influenced the way that I've come to play in these games. Alan, what do you think so far about the Assassins Tournament? How's it affected your gameplay?
Well, one of the big changes is obviously if I'm playing a regular season game or a playoff game and I'm up in the fourth quarter, I'm just going to milk the clock. Well, now with the Assassins Tournament, I might still be going 5 wide and chucking it up and down field. So that's definitely one of the big changes, and that throws in the inherent risk factor of do you blow a game there in the end, or do you rack up some more points at the end? And it's also changed. Maybe I go for it on a 4th down that I otherwise wouldn't have gone for it because, hey, I want to get some points out of this drive. If I'm going to lose, I'm not going to lose by 15 or something. I don't want to lose that many points. So it definitely changes the on-field strategy.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great concept, and I think so far, as far as what we've done in the preseason, it's been the best choice yet. All right, well, Alan, that brings us to the end of another show of WestOne Radio. Here we are in the in Madden League purgatory. We're kind of waiting to get this thing going, waiting for these rosters to get updated. Now that we've got the cuts. We kind of know what to expect, and we're just waiting now on Mr. Donnie Moore to get those final rosters set, maybe get our big patch put in, and then as soon as we get that, we'll get this thing up and running, and I look forward to it. I'm excited about it, as I'm sure you are as well. Any parting words for us here, and our tens and tens of listeners here on WestOne Radio?
Well, we should be starting here. Week 1 starts on Thursday night, so be sure you're ready for real NFL football, and we'll be starting our league shortly after that, probably sometime into next week, I'd imagine. So we're ready for the WestOne kickoff. I believe this will be our first year under our new name on our new console, so it's a new beginning for all of us. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to my annual NFC Championship matchup with Norman.
Okay, here we go. Well, we all know how that's going to go. Should the two of you make it into that final game, I'll just go ahead and remind you. All day long, and probably be Jordy Nelson, Eddie Lacy, they're all going to be trying this game. It's going to go south for you real quick. You better hope All right, well, there you have it. Once again, thanks for tuning in to us here on WestOne Radio. I do want to give a special shout-out to our friend of the league and our friend of the show, Earl. He goes by USC Wheezy. We kind of overlooped, my fault, technical difficulties on the new intro for the show. But if you caught it and you dug it, he was a big part of that. He sent off a lot of the background music and the beats on that thing, and so we're really thankful to him. He put a lot of the John Facenda voiceover. Really, really a big contributor to that introduction, and so I'd like to thank him for that. Thank you for his involvement, and that's just another example of what makes our league so fun, man. We got a lot of interactivity going on between our owners, and we got a great group of guys, including even K-Matt. So thank you, K-Matt, for calling into the show tonight. Thanks for being a part of it. Keep the pictures, man. Let's put the brakes on those so it doesn't get weird again. But thanks again for calling into the show. Appreciate you being a part of it, being a part of WestOne Madden Football League and WestOne Radio. So thanks again. Alan, Thanks again for joining, riding shotgun for us here on WestOne Radio. Appreciate
Pleasure.
all your work on the show. I thought you're doing a great job, and you're a welcome addition to the show, Alan. We appreciate your involvement.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
All right, buddy. All right, well, have a good night. Thanks again for joining us here on WestOne Radio.